It's with the greatest pleasure that I now introduce our guest speaker today. Dean Kamen is an inventor, entrepreneur, visionary, and a tireless advocate for science and technology. He is the founder of DECA Research and Development Corporation, where he develops internally generated inventions and provides research and development for major corporate clients. He holds more than 400 US and foreign patents for innovative devices that have expanded the frontiers of healthcare worldwide. Some of his notable inventions include the first wearable insulin pump for diabetics, the Home Choice portable peritoneal dialysis machine, the Independence iBot mobility system, and what is perhaps the coolest form of urban transportation and something that Dean may be best known for more broadly is the Segway human transporter. Among Mr. Kamen's proudest accomplishments, and I think perhaps something that may be the most important thing that he does, is the founding of FIRST, which stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. This is an organization that is dedicated to motivating the next generation of students in the K through 12 environment to understand, use, and enjoy science and technology. Mr. Kamen has been awarded the National Medal of Technology in 2000, the Lemelson MIT Prize in 2002, and was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame last May. As I mentioned earlier, this morning, for those of you ducks that were out there at Nickerson Field, Mr. Kamen was awarded an honorary doctorate of science degree from Boston University. Please join me in welcoming our very accomplished and distinguished guest, Dean Kamen.
Thank you. The truth be known, the only reason I really came is I'm desperately looking for some more good engineers. So you can all stick around if you're looking for an exciting career. I'll see you right after the graduation. Actually, I would like to start. I've been asked to accomplish 3 or 4 different things, and hopefully only in a few minutes. One of them, to recognize this graduation to the people to whom it matters so much, and that would not be any of you. My first observation is that parents are very peculiar, and I think this graduation is proof of that. It's not about the students. Maybe the 4 years of education was about you, and maybe the career that you'll be able to achieve because of this is about you, but today is one of those occasions where parents do something that they've been doing most of your lives. As little kids, they dressed you up in funny clothes, they put you in silly hats, and it gave them some great thrill. They're still doing it. But I think one of the reasons graduations are so important is, for many of you, this is the last time they get to do that. And to me, there is something significant about that, because it sort of represents a bigger metaphor, which is this is the last time you're the people that are having something done to you. You now all start doing things to the world. You'll probably start having your own kids. You'll put them in funny clothes. You'll go through this process. But you really are transitioning from the givees. Your parents give you things. Your grandparents give you things. I know many of you may have student loans, and you all feel like you've been giving time and effort and energy. Trust me, you haven't. You are very soon going to be on the other side and will probably never come back, especially if you're successful, to a time when mostly other people are worrying about you. You're going to start having to be worrying about yourselves, your families, this world. And that's either a burden, a terrible responsibility, or an exciting opportunity. It depends on your perspective. I know a lot of people that get out of school and think that all that preparation was to learn how to continue to be givees. They want to get things. You're prepared to do that. You'll get good jobs. Some of you will do extraordinarily well. But if you don't get yourself ready to start becoming one of the givers, no matter how much you get, it won't be enough. And it doesn't end up being a very fulfilling life. The reason I picked that, particularly for engineers and scientists, is I have a gripe with the science and engineering community in the United States in particular, and I think most scientists and engineers in general. And by the way, I can voice the gripe without being accused of being politically incorrect, because I'm one of them. And I'll start out by maybe a disclaimer that says, I wouldn't want to be anything else. I get up every morning, and I can't imagine giving up the skill sets of appreciating the rules of nature, the rules of physics, the tools of engineering, being able to go out, look at problems, try to solve them. There is no profession I'd rather do. And I give the world of engineers and scientists an A+ for creating the quality of life that we do so well that the rest of the world seems to take it for granted. The lights are on, the water's drinkable. The standard of living of every society since they've been keeping history is pretty much determined by their level of technical competence. Everything from our security to our health care is pretty much, the metric is how good we are at understanding and moving the boundaries of technology. And when you look particularly at this country, who's led in that for hundreds of years, scientists and engineers, you get an A+. At having a role in being part of the givers, we get a D. And most serious engineers and scientists I know will tell you, that's because we're busy, keeping the lights on, curing the diseases. There's always good reasons we're busy doing what our professions tell us to do. But as a consequence of that, we let the world be run by people that may not have all the data or the right perspective or the capability to solve problems. And I think the world's getting to be a place that it's sort of like the inmates are running the asylum. And the world of entertainment's always out there, giving kids a perspective of what's important. The world of sports seems to dominate the news. The politicians are always out there doing what they do. Where is the voice of science and engineering and real problem solving in our culture? And whether, as you now become professional scientists and engineers, you want to give back to society by putting that voice into mentoring students or helping some of these other professionals, including our political leaders, understand you need to do it, whether you feel it's a professional commitment or whether you feel you're doing it because you want your own future to be brighter. We need to do way more of that. The voice, the rational voice of scientists and engineers needs to be way more part of the public debate. And let's not kid ourselves, the world's getting pretty complex. You look at the news and it's tsunamis and hurricanes and bird flu and terrorism and pollution and global warming. There are very few of those things that are going to be solved by the banter of all these other groups. Most of the roots of the solutions to those problems are going to come from people that have extraordinary insights into how technology can be properly applied. But yet very few people that have those capacities seem to want to get out and devote time and effort and energy into the leadership of what happens to them. I mean, I hope it's an exaggerated story, but I know that after World War II, people said, supposedly to Wernher von Braun, you built rockets for the Germans, then you worked for the Russians, then you worked for the Americans. What's the story? And supposedly this brilliant father of rocketry said, my job is to put the rockets up. Where they come down isn't my department. That could be taken as a joke, But if you step back and look at the world, there are a whole lot of engineers out there, and there's a whole lot of scientists out there that are so engrossed in doing something with technology, I think they've sort of abdicated their role in deciding what are the important things, what should we be doing. You will be, if you choose to be, a force in the world, and you ought to take that as a serious opportunity. And by the way, I think learning to give as well as to get is an important thing. They're not only not competitive, they work together. The reason to earn a lot. There's just so much junk you need to acquire. The reason to do it is that you can give more. So, I would ask you, this new generation of scientists and engineers coming into a very, very complex world, the future of which will be largely determined by how wisely we use technology, I would urge you to take a more expansive role in society. More kids need to understand the difference between fact and nonsense. It's sadly true that in the United States, last year, for instance, we graduated 72,000 engineers. That's all engineering schools, all degrees combined. We graduated more kids last year in the United States with specific degrees in sports management than all engineering. The quality of life for your kids is going to be determined by the quality of our scientists and engineers. Whether we keep raising the bar and whether we keep pushing what we really know and what we can really do will be more determined by the quality of our scientists and engineers than any other group of people. Just as a reference point, by the way, China and India this year will graduate 500,000. There's all sorts of political stories about that. It's good, it's bad. I think it's great. I'd rather have a world where everybody's smart and getting smarter and everybody's racing to the top, because if somebody over there cures a disease or figures out how to make an engine that doesn't pollute, that's good for us. All those people that somehow think there's anything bad about the whole world becoming educated must be people that feel like they can't compete, which is kind of ironic for a country that was built on the principle of capitalism and competition versus the rest of the world. This is not the time to lose our courage or our vision or our focus or willingness to compete. You don't win in the real world by putting other people down and being on top. I think we should be racing the world to the top, not spiraling along with them to the bottom. But we need to be able to compete by having the best. We have all along, since this history of this country began. We've had the entrepreneurs, the inventors, the scientists. But it's not a birthright. Every generation has to earn it. If you don't, you'll be looking at the world from a different perspective. So I think whether you know it or not, and most of our culture doesn't know it, this country and this world is counting on you. These are exciting times. Your dean suggested I should give you some advice on how to succeed. I think that's a little unfair. They've had you for 4 years preparing you for that. I get you for another 5 minutes. But I'm going to give you some advice on how to succeed, at least as I see it. I made a simple list of the 100 things you have to do to succeed as an engineer. Don't worry, I'll go through the 100 things very quickly. Number 1, pick an important problem. That may seem easy. It's really hard because, frankly, there's so much technology out there that you can do just about anything with it. What is it worth giving up so many hours or sometimes months or years of your life to do? And ironically, I think students, young people in general, have a big advantage over geezers. I'm getting to geezerhood. because you have more current education. You're standing on the shoulders of the technical giants that came before you. You have more energy. Your brains work better, faster. You have an advantage, a competitive advantage in every way. You have longer left in life to succeed. You have one disadvantage. You don't have the experience and judgment maybe to know the difference between those things that might really be important and things that are just interesting or cool or fun or already been done. Don't waste your time doing things that aren't important. Life is too short. One of the reasons I work on medical products is you can be pretty sure if you can build something that helps somebody live a better life, it'll be important. So that's number one. Make sure what you're doing is important. Number two, don't give up. That's also really hard, but it'll convince you you're on the right track if people try to make you give up. It'll convince you that you picked number one properly. Because if you start doing something that really is important and it's easy, you probably picked the wrong thing. Trust me, all the easy stuff has been done. Fire, water, movable type, the TV clicker. They're all done. So you get to number two, and if you've really picked an important problem, most of the people around you will probably give you good advice. That's really hard, because all the important problems that are left are still left because they're hard. Make energy without pollution, cure diseases, you know what they are. But don't give up. If it was a good idea, if it was something that matters to you, no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody does, unless you get to a point where A, somebody else got there, that problem is solved. Don't waste your time. B, yep, it really does violate the second law of thermodynamics. Yep, it's a perpetual motion machine. Yep, I mean, what other people's opinions are, don't let them matter. If you're violating the laws of nature, the rules of engineering, if there's just no technology to accomplish it, it's something you learned, you move on. But I would urge every one of you to pick something that's important and not ever give up until you succeed. That's number two. Here's the really, really good news. The other 98 don't matter, because that's all there is. Work on important stuff with a conviction and don't give up. But along the way, as a bunch of engineers and scientists, and just as adults, you're starting the part of life where you need to be the givers to a world that's got a lot of people, even the wealthy ones, have become used to being takers. There are 6.3 billion people out there. About 1 billion are the age of the kids graduating in this country now. 1 billion. Very, very few, and virtually insignificant percentage of these kids have the education you have. That gives you an unbelievable tool, frankly, an unbelievable advantage. It's a fair advantage if you use it responsibly. It's a fair thing to do if you take that responsibility and find a way to use those tools to make the world a better place. Because with a huge portion of 6.3 billion people incapable of solving their problems, but through technology they're able to see the world as we see it. Now every have-not can see all the haves. People that are poor and ignorant are desperate and angry and frustrated. The very few that have the capacity to solve real problems and to spread knowledge need to make that a high priority. You really do. Because all these other people, again due to technology, aren't in virtual faraway places anymore. They're literally your neighbors. We're living in a very interrelated, complex place. I think the world has to see the educated few really working hard at creating a collective win for everybody. You've been given this privilege, you've been given this opportunity, take it seriously. And by the way, I can assure you that the giving part turns out to be way more fun than the getting part. So make your living by what you get. Make your life by what you give. Have a good life.